All right, all right, all right. We are live. Going to let this fill up as per usual, and then we will discuss. Going to give it about 2 minutes, the usual time, and we will talk about this game. Fun one. I think we can say that. White Frobro. Not sure about that. Was this the best the Ducks have looked offensively all season? Ooh, good question. It's hard to say, but it's up there for sure. Oh, did you just fake me out?
What?
Are you doing this?
I got 5 minutes here.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, then why don't we just start? I
Okay.
usually I usually give it a couple minutes for people to fill in, but
Okay.
we'll give it another minute.
Okay.
Where are your vibes at?
Uh, this was the first game that I wasn't frustrated with things.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
Tell
that's
tell the
By the
people.
way, I should definitely fix and create a overlay for you as I'm looking at this.
It's fine. It does the
It's
job.
really not that hard for me to do. You should have asked me.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
I don't ask for things.
but overall, thoughts on the game. This was one where they played like absolute hot garbage for the first 10 minutes of this game, at least. Yeah, would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean they just looked like they were kind of shell shocked
Yeah,
that they were playing the Oilers.
and the Oilers scored that power play goal, and the Ducks kind of got a goal out of nowhere off the turnover by Draisaitl that finds Carlson. Carlson makes a ridiculous shot to end up scoring
Yeah.
there. And then you have McTavish come down the wing, score kind of from a really bad angle, and a goal that really Calvin Pickard should not let in by any means. Like that is just not a goal that an an NHL goaltender should let in. But I'll say this, they didn't play great after that either. The Oilers got their chances, they were pushing again. And then the Sam Colangelo goal kind of comes off a double tip, also one that maybe Calvin Pickard would want back. But then the final goal that they get from Mason McTavish is a really nice play with a high danger look there. And the Ducks, while they didn't have necessarily a high quantity of chances there, I think they did have some nice flurries at the end of that period to get there. Now, they probably should not have been leading that period at the end of that period. What was it? 4-1 at the end of it all?
Yep. 4-1.
But 4-1 at the end of it. But regardless, you take that score and you go to the next periods with it. And I think my big question mark as that was moving on was how were they going to play? Was this going to be a repeat of the first 10 minutes where the Oilers were just absolutely dominant? And I think what they did really, really well was they, even though the Oilers had the puck, I think that they did a really good job of limiting it to the outside and actually doing what they want to do in the defensive zone from that. And they did not get caught too much there. And it's funny, you're showing the Corsi chart. Change it to expected goals.
Oh.
And so it drops down a little bit. And I'm looking at Evolving Hockey, and expected goals in total for the game was 2.28 for the Oilers at 5-on-5 to 2.06 for the Ducks. So ended up pretty tight. And that's largely just due to the fact that I think they hung in there in the second and third period, and that's kind of what they needed to do going into it with a 4-1 lead. It wasn't a full turtle, wasn't anything like that, and I think that this was probably one of their strongest defensive performances, at least from a two-period perspective, with the 4-1 lead. And to me, I came out of this period believing a bit more than I ever have in the past.
Wow.
I
Strong
know,
words.
I know,
Strong words.
I know,
You're helicoptering into the stream and
I
dropping some
know.
bombs.
Yeah, what do you think
Love
about
it.
that? What do you think about that?
I think that you're pretty much spot on. I think that the Ducks came into this game and the first period, I mean, just outside of the goals, the game was kind of flowing how you would expect it. You have a desperate Oilers team that's trying to kind of get back on a winning path, and they were dominating the chances, they were possessing the puck, and yet the Ducks just kept finding ways to get on the board. I mean, that matters too. And I think that a couple of those goals maybe you can say were some spotty goaltending by Calvin Pickard. Um, maybe the first, maybe even the first goal, maybe not because Carlson.
The
I mean,
first goal is a great shot.
that's a wide open shot in the slot. Yeah. I think that really honestly the only goal that I would say you could blame the goalie on in those first four is maybe the fourth goal, where it's just like this weird play in front. But even then, it's McTavish left all alone. I think that
the fourth goal I would blame him the least on, honestly.
Well, the thing is that everyone wants to blame Pickard for the second goal, and I think that that's a harder shot than it looks. Like, yes, you would like your goalie to make that save, but McTavish does a good job of changing the angle of his shot, and there's also a screen there, and he kind of fits it between the legs of the defenseman.
But
I think it's a trickier shot than people are kind of realizing.
From that angle, that's a positional save that he should make, is my view of it.
Sure, but I mean, outside of that, though, the other three, like the Colangelo one, is just a crazy bounce. I don't think you can really be too mad at the goalie for that. And then the other two is Carlson all alone in front, and then the last one is McTavish left all alone in front. So that's
and
it's kind of funny that the Oilers changed goalies after the first period, because in a way, I don't think that period was on Calvin Pickard. The Ducks were just getting to the good spots of the ice just over and over and over.
Yeah, the only pushback I would have there is that he's an NHL goaltender. He does have to make a save. Like, you do have to make some saves that are difficult there, that are in tough locations. And yes, the Ducks got to those locations. I still think you can pin a little bit of it on Pickard. But moving out of that period, I think what the Ducks did really well, and this was something talked about on last night's show, was against, I'm already forgetting who they played in the last game, the Blackhawks. There
Chicago?
We go. Yeah, I don't know.
How could you forget?
I randomly decided to join this to surprise you, so cut me some slack here.
Hey, you're already 5 minutes in.
Yeah, I need to go do dishes soon, as dealing with some stuff here, but figured out.
Shout out to Chubbs Peterson, by the way.
Yes, shout out.
Thank you for the what do you call that? A tip?
No, it's a super chat.
Super chat. Oh, okay, thank you for the super chat. Just so everybody knows, anyone can do a super chat. So
yeah, but I think what the Ducks did well was in this game was get out and in transition. Like, I think after the first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the game, I think against the Blackhawks, I had talked about that it felt like it was a lot of in-zone play as compared to if you look at the Vancouver game where they were out in transition, out on the rush. I think what they did really well in this game was get out on the rush. And you look at, for instance, the Ryan Strome goal that is scored in this game with Jackson Lacombe kind of flinging it back. That's getting out in transition. There's I'm trying to remember the Alex Killorn goal that was in the third period.
Yep.
That was a breakaway all by Trevor Zegras making a really nice lead pass there. And so for me, this kind of goes back to what I've said, that this team should be a team that's willing to trade chances, especially with the goaltending that they have. This game was a proof of concept of that, is that, maybe the Ducks were not great in the first period. They relied on the goaltending to keep them there, but once they ended up getting their sea legs and were trading those chances, they do have the talent to finish those, and they're in a much better spot to create offense from that location as compared to relying on in-zone offense.
Yeah, I think that if you look at all of their goals, they weren't all clean rush plays. Like the Zegras, the Killorn goal where Zegras finds him, it's a breakaway, so I don't know if you can purely call that a rush, but it comes off of a clean exit, a nice exit by Carlson. And then the goal prior to that, the one where you talked about it, Lacombe gets the assist. That's also a really clean exit out of the zone for the Ducks. So you've got two goals there that are kind of fed by your transition game. And then even the Gauthier, his only goal tonight, there's so many goals, I'm getting people confused. But the fourth goal of the game, it wasn't really a rush play, but it was Gauthier just kind of chipping and chasing right off the faceoff, using his speed to get into the zone. And they win a battle down low, Gauthier and Colangelo, and then they get it out front to McTavish. So, yeah, even if the goals weren't directly off of the rush, their ability to get through the neutral zone and out of their own zone was really working for them tonight, which, again, like you've been talking about, it's ironic given that they don't really play to that strength as much as they should.
Yeah. One nit to pick here.
Oh
This is
God.
not actually about
This
the
is
game.
supposed to be a good vibe. This is a Vibes HC chat, so be careful.
This is not about the actual game,
Okay.
but a nit to pick.
Okay.
Can the broadcast stop complaining about penalties?
I did not
Like,
watch the Ducks broadcast, so I can't comment.
Can they not? Like the Sam Colangelo, that was a hook, or sorry, that was a hold. He wrapped his arms around him, like that was there. Like there was no complaining about the Darnell Nurse pick that was called a penalty. I think that was certainly an interference call, but we see that not called all the time throughout games, and so like I just am sick of the broadcast doing that because the Ducks, for the most part this season, have been good at not taking penalties. And so instead of flipping it on its head and say the Ducks need to be more disciplined, complaining about the calls just makes them look whiny. And especially when the team's good, like they should be in some ways critical of this team not taking these penalties instead of just saying that's a soft call.
The other thing that we should really talk about is Lucas Dostal, because
he's so good.
The Ducks don't win this game without Lucas Dostal giving them the effort that he provided. 32 saves on 34 shots, and especially in that early going where the Oilers were really buzzing, and hell, even throughout the entire game, the Oilers, as well as the Ducks, were able to defend. When McDavid was on the ice, he was basically getting to the net front at will, and Dostal was there every time, whether it was coming across for a glove save, getting across for a pad save. It seemed like all of his saves had to be on very difficult lateral movement type chances. And so if I were to pick a first star for tonight's game, despite the offensive explosion, I still think I give it to Lucas Dostal. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's totally fair because I think that for me, the biggest outcome, like
they could have been down 3-0 5 minutes into this game.
For me, my biggest takeaway from this game is actually the defensive side of the game. Even though they scored 6 goals in this game, like for me, it is how they defended and transitioned that defense to offense in the second and third period against this Oilers team. That to me is the actual narrative that should come out of this game, not the goal scoring, because the goal scoring comes from we could debate it back and forth, but at the end of the day, I think it pretty much is some soft goaltending on the Oilers side of things. And so for me, the bigger takeaway is that this was how you want to defend a lead. That yes, you're gonna have to, like, there are gonna be some score effects there, but you do need to be able to move the puck out. You can't just be defending for the entirety of it all. You need to make transition plays. You need to not get caught in your own zone consistently and kind of win. Like there are some games that come to mind. I think the Dallas game comes to mind where they were really positive about the way they played defensively, but if you look at the way that they were actually defending in the third period, maybe it was a different team, maybe it wasn't Dallas, but regardless, this narrative that they were defending well, but they were just giving up a whole boatload of chances, and it was all Dostal or Gibson making the saves, and they were just caught in their own zone. And so to me, this was actually them playing well defensively with a lead, which we haven't necessarily fully seen, and they did a good job of getting their chances on the counter. Like this was, for me, the first game, like I said, before I hop on out, because now it's been like 15 minutes. And I
was going to say 5 minutes turned into 15, which I'm cool with. I don't have to talk as much.
I got to go do some dishes here. But
yeah, don't get in trouble.
Yeah, I should not get in trouble. So I will go do dishes, but this was a game that left me feeling some warm and fuzzies. But I will say this should not change the Ducks' trade deadline approach at all.
Wow.
Brian Dumoulin still needs to leave so that Olin Zellweger can play. That's all.
Well, we appreciate
Thanks, everyone.
We appreciate the appearance. Maybe he'll come back. We don't know. And there he goes.
I won't.
Okay. Well, good to know. All right. Well, that was interesting. Got a guest appearance from Jake. And now I don't know where to really take this, but I'm glad that Jake hopped on, gave his opinion. So I'll just kind of go back in time and go through this game a little chronologically, as we usually do, recap-wise. We've already talked about the big stuff of this game, so I won't spend too much time on the details. But one thing I wanted to go back to is to start this game, you saw a lineup change for the Ducks. So Trevor Zegras back in the lineup. He was back to his usual spot next to Leo Carlson and Alex Killorn. And then you saw a kid line put together of Cutter Gauthier, Mason McTavish, and Sam Colangelo, and really struggling to come up with the right nickname for that line, because kid line to me is a little generic. It's just, there's been a lot of kid lines in the past. have toyed with CMC, have toyed with CCM, but I saw someone in the chat put GMC, and the GMC line might be good, although it's still a little corporate to me, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. And then the other, well, it's not really a change, but something to point out is that Olin Zellweger was scratched for the fourth game in a row, which is really unfortunate. He has played 2 games. He played the first 2 games coming out of the Four Nations break, and ever since then has been sitting. They do play again tomorrow, so we'll see. Maybe that will change. He'll come back into the lineup since it's a back-to-back. But like we just discussed, Jake and I mean, this game started off really squirrely for the Ducks. They were really kind of defending early on. The Oilers were just buzzing everywhere. Leon Draisaitl gets an early power play goal. And at that point, it felt like, oh God, is this going to be one of those games where they just kind of get destroyed by the Oilers? And it turned around really fast. Leo Carlsson gets on the board. Really nice job finishing in front. And now I think he's up to, it might be like something like 4 goals in his last 3 games or something like that. But he's on a little bit of a hot streak, and he's got 14 goals now on the season, which is really a good sign for him. Mason McTavish picks up his 15th goal of the season next to put the Ducks up 2-1. That was just a couple minutes later. And I kind of pushed back on what Jake was saying earlier, that was a soft goal by Calvin Pickard. I mean, I think I agree that it's a save you would like to see, but first off, McTavish made just a really nice play to change the angle of the release. Yes, it's at a tight angle, but he does add that layer of deception, and then he shoots it between the legs of the defender, which just kind of makes it harder for the goalie to pick up the release point. On that play, though, one thing that really stuck out to me was Cutter Gauthier with just a really nice zone entry. He does a good job of kind of holding the puck on his forehand, sticking out his shoulder, bumping off the defender, and then just handing it off to Mason McTavish. And it's funny because right before that goal, I posted a clip of them basically doing that same kind of play, except in reverse. So the puck goes up to McTavish. He's kind of all alone on the rush, and he just has the presence of mind to wait. And then he just throws an area pass over to Cutter Gauthier, who's then able to come in all alone on a breakaway. And that ended up, or a semi-breakaway. But that ended up being a little bit of a preview for what we're going to see, because the Ducks were able to do such a good job of getting out in open space and making the Oilers pay with those dangerous chances. After that, the Sam Colangelo goal 5 minutes later, that one was a little bit of it's a fortunate bounce. I don't really have a whole lot to say. The Ducks win a face-off. Puck gets back to the point, and it goes off of Colangelo's skate and in, but Colangelo's second goal of the season, and I thought that he had a good game tonight. Well, I'll talk more about that line. And then to finish off the period, right after that goal, Cutter Gauthier, again, zone entry. It's really becoming a thing with Cutter Gauthier where his ability to enter the zone, whether it's a chip in, like we see on the fourth goal, or a controlled zone entry, he's just so good at it. And on that play, he just gets it in deep, goes down beneath the goal line. Him and Colangelo kind of just fight for that puck, and it finds McTavish in front, who buries it home. At that point, the Ducks are up 4-1. And in the second period, the 5th goal of the game, just a clean exit for the Ducks. And Jackson Lacombe with one of the best assists that I think you'll see, just period, from a defenseman. He joins the rush, so being really active, and he gets that puck from Vetrano, I think it was, and he, in one motion, scoops it and then hooks it into the slot perfectly on Strom's tape, who makes it 5-1. Eventually it would be 6-1, another clean exit for the Ducks. Carlson just kind of shakes and bakes, gets it out to Zegras, who then finds Killorn kind of cherry picking a little bit, and that makes it 6-1. Eventually, Connor McDavid does break through on the power play, but at that point, it's too little too late. Ducks win 6-2, and as Jake was kind of mentioning, this wasn't a game where, yes, the Ducks went up big, but they didn't really sit back a ton. You expect the Oilers to press the rest of the way because they're desperate, because they're good, because they have Connor McDavid, and despite all of that, I think you look at these stats and it's like, yeah, this is a pretty good outcome. You can see that the Oilers did, looking at this heat map here on the screen, the Oilers did manage to get some good looks in the middle, but a lot of it was kind of kept a little bit out wide, kept out to the point. All this to say, though, that I think my first star of the game is still Lukasz Dostal, because without him, the Ducks could have gone down 3-0 early, and then maybe it's a completely different game. So I will give Dostal first star, but you look at whether it's Lacombe, McTavish. Let's go Lacombe and McTavish as the other two stars, because Lacombe had 3 assists on the night, I believe. Let's see. Uh, yeah, 3 assists for Cutter Gauthier. Wow. Yeah, 3 assists for Lacombe, 3 assists for Gauthier, 2 goals for McTavish. I don't know. I think I'll go Gauthier's third star and Lacombe's second star. How about that? This is just mountain picks. And then just kind of shifting over, looking at the different performances on the night. I thought that kid line, we don't know what to call it yet, the GMC line, the CCM line, I don't know. But they worked really well together. I think that the chemistry between Gauthier and McTavish out in transition is really, really impressive. And Colangelo kind of fits perfectly into that, because he's able to keep up mentally, and he's also got the skills to make good on those plays. Mason McTavish was great, obviously, with the 2 goals. Trevor Zegras immediately bringing an offensive spark to this team. He had that one spinorama backhand pass to Alex Killorn on a 2-on-1, which was really impressive. And then he later gets the assist on the Killorn goal. The Strome line was solid. Jackson Lacombe continues to be great. He broke up a late 2-on-1, which could have put the Oilers back into at least some sort of striking distance. Yeah, overall, just a solid game for the Ducks. And so now I will turn it over to the chat. So if you have a question or something that you want me to talk about, just throw it in the chat right now, and I will get to it. I should also note that Ross Johnston was scratched tonight, which, may or may not have had an effect, but I thought Jansen Harkins had a good game. Harkins, Lundestrom, Leeson was a good line. So yeah, let's see. Let's look at this chat. So yeah, if you've got questions, now is the time to throw it in. Lacombe just had the best game score of anyone in the NHL this season. Interesting. I don't really look at game score, but he had a great game, so not surprising. Daniel Lowry, is the Oilers roster more poorly constructed than Anaheim's? Yeah, the Ducks don't have anything close to McDavid and Dry. No. The Oilers have a really good team. I can't really say that. White Frobro says, if this team just keeps playing like this game, I don't think they need depth scoring help. Yeah, but you can't expect this every single game. Does Colangelo see another AHL game this year? I want to say no. I don't think he should, but the reality is they kind of seem very content to ping pong him back and forth between both leagues. Maybe if Robbie Fabry gets traded at the deadline, maybe that'll change things. SD asked, does Colangelo get sent back down when Fabry comes back, and what are your thoughts? Yeah, like I was just saying, I think Colangelo should have been in the NHL all along, ever since he was first called up. But they seem really content with playing Robbie Fabry over him, and I don't know if that will change. One thing I should also note is that if you are of the opinion that the Oilers' goaltending was bad tonight, well, the trade deadline is on Friday, and John Gibson is sitting right there on the Ducks bench. I really wonder if this is the game that gets the Oilers to pay up for John Gibson. Okay, Jacob asks, have been here for too long. What would be the solution to our PK and PP success? So I think you mean lack of success. I don't know. I thought the power play looked okay tonight with the 5 forwards, but and the penalty kill is just awful. I think you need a new coach there. I don't know. I think first get a better coach for the penalty kill and see, and then for the power play, I think that they're trending in the right direction. I think 5 forwards is a good idea. They've put Mason McTavish back on the right flank for his one-timer. I think at this point you just got to execute. So I don't really know. I think tonight was a step in the right direction. Does Luneau play in the NHL again this season? I don't think so. I think the AHL is where he should be right now. He's thriving there, unless we see an injury, or maybe they just want to give him a game or two just to as a, kind of a reward. Barry asks, what would a good return from Edmonton look like in a Gibson trade? Well, if you can get Matthew Savoy from the Oilers, I think that that would be a really good return. Get a young player, because Matthew Savoy is a good player and helpful for the Oilers, but they need goaltending, and that is much more helpful. And their window to win is now, so um, why not go and get that goalie? And who cares about a player who's going to be in his prime 3 to 4 years from now? Your time to win is now. So yeah, I think Savoy would be the one I would target. Is Lacombe on his way to becoming the best Ducks D-man in the last 13-ish years? I'm trying to think why 13 years, but never mind that part. Is he going to be better than Hampus Lindholm? I think that's too early to tell. He's having a great season. He's really good offensively. His defensive game has come a long way. There may be still some mistakes here and there, but overall, I mean, he's been fantastic. But to me, the best Ducks defenseman in the last, kind of post Niedermeyer Pronger era is Hampus Lindholm, and I don't think he's there quite yet. But we'll see if he does. If he keeps doing this, if he does this another year, then that conversation gets a lot more interesting. Oh, Niedermeyer retired 13 years ago. Okay, now it makes sense. I was like, why 13 years? Ducks seem more composed, breaking out of their zone. What has changed? It's interesting you asked that, because if you look at a lot of the goals tonight, they come off of these transition plays where they get out of the zone really cleanly. And I can't really say that anything has changed in the way they approach it. I think they're just executing. They're just doing it at a higher clip. And I think one thing that maybe has changed since the Four Nations face-off is that the defensemen have gotten really aggressive, jumping up into the play. Like you see Lacombe jumping up tonight. Minchikov has been doing that a lot. So that could be part of it, is it just adds that extra layer of attack when you're transitioning. Whose ceiling is higher, Minchikov or Lacombe? I think it's still Minchikov just because he's younger. And you would think that when Minchikov is the same age as Lacombe, that he could be even better. But it's starting to become a high bar to clear. Dumoulin said he is open to an extension. Would you be opposed for any reason other than the logjam of young defensemen? I would be opposed, but not for any other reason. But I think that the logjam of young defensemen is real. Olin Zellweger just has to keep playing. Oh, and we got a super chat from Barry. Thank you very much, Barry. I'm not sure how to post this show. There we go. Shout out to Barry. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Okay. What was I talking about again? Sorry. Yes. So the Dumoulin thing. I think that you do need to just make room for Zellweger and Minchikov to both play. They need to be getting reps. They need to be getting that opportunity, because otherwise, those are the guys that are going to be there in a few years. Brian Dumoulin, as solid as he's been, is 33. When this team is really pushing to contend, which could be as early as next year, we don't know, he's going to be declining. And I think that those minutes need to go to your younger players. Tucker Phillips missed the beginning. Can we get a recap of your thoughts on the win? Well, there will be a recorded version of this posted, so you can go and watch that. But my quick summary is that the Ducks played really well. They got over a tough start where Lucas Dostal had to bail them out, and then they just exploded offensively and kind of just shut it down the rest of the way. Kept the Oilers at bay as best as they could. Is Fabry a placeholder for Seneca when he's in the lineup? I'm not sure if Seneca will be on this team full-time next year. I think it might be a situation where he plays 9 games with the Ducks, and then they kind of keep him around, send him out of the AHL for a conditioning stint, and then he goes back to junior eventually. I think that's what could happen, but we don't know. If you asked a question earlier and I have not gotten to it, please throw it back into the chat, because scrolling up is difficult right now. Crowbar says we need to sign a good free agent forward and let Seneca cook. Yeah. Ben White, Killorn is probably the placeholder for Seneca. Well, they just drafted Seneca, so it's kind of hard to say anyone's the placeholder because everyone was acquired before him. But yeah, I would be a little surprised if Seneca was full time next year, but could be wrong. Could be wrong. Lord knows I've been wrong before. Uh, Darius says, remember during training camp when all the players were hyping up Lacombe? He started off the season sick and had a couple of bad games through the season. Looks like the players are right. Yeah, he had a shaky start. He was making a lot of mistakes, but I think at that point, what people have kind of forgotten is that a lot of his mistakes were, I mean, they were really bad, catastrophic errors, but they were also singular moments. His overall play was still very solid. It's just that when you have that bad of mistakes, it really does overshadow everything else. And he's found a way to really minimize that. And now his overall game can really speak for itself. Sam asks, do you see a world in which Zegras is traded? He seems to make a significant impact on puck possession. Do I want to answer this? Let me take a sip of water. So I tweeted the other day that it would not surprise me if Trevor Zegras ended up being traded either at the trade deadline or this summer. That it just kind of feels like the writing is on the wall. And the reason why I said that is because I think for the last little while, it's just kind of dawned on me that the way the Ducks have handled Zegras and the way that he's played, because as good as I think he is, the production has not really been there. I just wonder if he is truly a fit for the way that the Ducks want to play. They want to play this very direct, fast game, less of an east-west game, and I think Zegras at the wing doesn't necessarily fit that. Again, not saying that that's the right call. It's just that I'm trying to get into the head of Pat Verbeek a little bit, and I think that at every kind of key point, we've seen the Ducks. You know, they've treated Zegras a little differently, right? It's like he's got to adapt the way he plays. We're going to give him a bridge deal because we're not sure about him long term. We're going to put him on the wing. You know, it's every time he makes a mistake, he's going to kind of get his wrist slapped for it. It's just always felt like there are different rules for Trevor Zegras than there are for everyone else. And I just think that I just wouldn't be surprised if at some point they flip him for someone who maybe is a better fit for what they're trying to accomplish. Like maybe you bring in a Dylan Cousins, for example. You kind of do a player for player swap, like a hockey type trade. Again, that's not me predicting or that's not me reporting or anything. It's certainly not what I want. I want to be able to watch Trevor Zegras play because he's awesome. But that's just kind of my overview, my gut feel of the situation. Could be totally wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but that's just how I have seen things. Now back to the chat. I'm going to stick around for another maybe 5 minutes here. So to answer your question, Sam, I do see a world in which he's traded. I certainly do. I don't know if it'll be at this deadline, but I don't think it's out of the question. Just the way that his season has kind of gone. You know, the points haven't really been there, and as much as he's improved in other areas, a player like him gets judged by his points, unfortunately. Is Zegras the straw that stirs the Ducks' offense? I think so. I think that he makes a huge difference when he's in the lineup. You saw it tonight. I think he makes an even bigger difference when he's at center, but the Ducks have refused to leave him at center, and I wonder if that is a bit of a Pat Verbeek call there, because Greg Cronin has said he loves Trevor Zegras at center, so it just makes you wonder who's really calling the shots on that decision. Someone says, seems as though Carlson's game has really jumped off since returning from Four Nations. Looks like he's actively looking to shoot for the first time all season. Yeah, I think he's been good. I think that he's kind of simplified his game a little bit. You know, he's not trying to dangle through 5 people at once. He's making a bit of easier reads. There's still some hairy moments with turnovers. We saw that tonight. But his game has kind of simplified itself, and good things are happening for him. Brandon asks, we are close to getting into the playoffs. Does this help us attract a real high-end free agent? Who seems like a realistic free agent or major trade that would be willing to come to Anaheim? I'm not sure who would realistically be willing to come to the Ducks because that seems to be really hard to find the last few years. But to your earlier question, I think that yes, the Ducks pushing for a playoff spot and showing that they are improving is really big for attracting free agents because it's hard to attract free agents when you're one of the worst teams in the league. So this is from a marketing to free agent standpoint, this season is a really big success. Let's see. Oh, I answered that Carlson question. Okay, well, I don't see any more questions. I'll give people a couple more minutes. If you've got any other questions, throw them in now. Otherwise, I think we're going to wrap this thing up. So I'm going to scroll up, see if I missed anything. Also, if you are watching this right now, please like the video. Let's get a like spike going. It helps tremendously, helps the channel, helps the algorithm. So please give it a thumbs up, and I will be very grateful for that. So this was Brett earlier. Ducks took the Hawks too lightly. Did the Oilers take the Ducks too lightly? I don't think the Oilers took the Ducks lightly because they were coming at them pretty strong. They were really dominating early on. So I don't think that was the case. This was a fair. They gave them their best shot, and the Ducks held them off. And someone asked about a standings update. And so let's do that right now since I haven't done that. So the Flames won tonight, and so the Ducks do remain 6 points out, so nothing has really changed. But tomorrow night, the Ducks do play the Canucks, who are 4 points ahead of them. And so if the Ducks win that game, they will be 2 points back of they will be 3 points back of the Canucks. So that is a must-win game for the Ducks. I mean, basically every game is a must-win from here on out. But yeah. Tomorrow night against Vancouver, and then oh my gosh, and then on Friday against the you can't see it on your screen, but on Friday they play the Blues. So those are two huge games. Those are two enormous games because the Blues are 3 points ahead of them and the Canucks are 4 points ahead of them. So if they can win both of those games, that will really go a long way in the standings. Someone asked, is Ziegler still gone in your opinion? I never said he was gone. I just get the impression that this is a thing that could happen, and I wouldn't be surprised if it did. So, I don't have any predictions regarding that. I hope he does not get traded. You mentioned it on Twitter, but what lessons do you think the Ducks could learn from the turnaround that the CBJ have had? Ooh, interesting. It's interesting because I don't know how to give the fully positive answer here, but coaching matters. If you look at the Blue Jackets roster and their lineup, they have some great players. Voronkov, Marchenko, Fantilli's playing great. But you look at this lineup, Werenski is obviously great. But I think coaching has made a huge difference there. I think Dean Evison has them playing a really solid brand of hockey, and that makes all the difference. And they've also really clearly prioritized skill in their top six. I mean, you look at Marchenko, Kent Johnson, Shinikov. This is a skilled forward group. And I think that too many times this season, the Ducks have kind of been afraid to really lean into the skill of their lineup. So I think those are also some lessons. But having this guy, Zach Werenski, really helps. So the Ducks don't have maybe Jackson Lacombe is the next Zach Werenski. Maybe that's his comparable. 1 through 10, how happy are you with Cutter? 10 out of 10. He's been great this season. I watched him a bunch last year at BC, and I was kind of skeptical of him as an NHL prospect, and he has proven me way wrong. So yeah, I am thrilled with his play. What do you think his ceiling is? 40-goal scorer or something more like Tom? No, he's not a Tom Wilson. I think probably 40 goals is probably his ceiling. You never know if he could exceed that, but he's got high-end goal scoring potential. Okay. Would you rather have Brock Besser or Sam Bennett? Probably Brock Besser. Will the Habs make the playoffs? Yes. Great question. Yes. They are, let's see, they are 1 point out. They just re-signed Jake Evans, so yes. Okay. All right. If anyone has any last questions, throw them in now. Otherwise, I am out of here. Going once and going twice, and that is it. Okay. Well, thank you for watching, everybody. Great stream. Ducks win 6-2 final score. And we will see what happens tomorrow night against Vancouver. Talk to you soon.